Now, the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNradio.com.
See? Told y'all, man. Warriors in 6. That's what I said. I said I was going to take the Warriors in 6. I thought the Warriors were going to win in 5 and that it was possible that it could be a sweep. Clearly, we are not going to have a sweep. However, when you say Warriors in 6, you feel a whole lot better about yourself at a time like this. But oh, no. I said that the Cavs were done after Kyrie Irving got hurt. What a bold proclamation, right? You just lost your max-level all-star, all-NBA caliber player, and I said they were done. Oh, boy. After that game happened, all these people jump up. Oh, Bomani, you still think they're done? Oh, you still think they're done? You ain't have a damn thing to say when Kyrie was laying on the ground, did you? No, you ain't say nothing when Kyrie was laying on the ground. But then all of a sudden you get you a final score behind you, and next thing you know, hey, Bomani, what you want to say now? What you want to say now? What you want to say now? I see you, you busters. Every single one of you, man. It's a bunch of suckers out there who just want to come bring this to me. But I match your suckerific behavior with my own suckerific behavior and remind you that I said Warriors in 6. That being said, I'm not about to sit up here and pretend that I ever thought that the Cavs would win Game 2. No. I did not think that that was going to happen. I'm not even going to sit up here and try to lie to you to that degree. I had no idea they were going to be able to pull that off. By the way, it does kind of beg a question about the fact that with Kyrie and without Kyrie, the results were kind of sort of ultimately the same. That's just something for you to consider down the line when we try to figure out what to do exactly with Kyrie Irving, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 3 games this postseason the Cavs have played without Kyrie Irving, and that is 3 games that they have won without Kyrie Irving. Yeah, okay? Now, the Heat, during one of those championship runs, had a decent stretch where they lost Chris Bosh, but Chris Bosh was man number 3 on that team. It's wild to think that Kyrie could be man number 2 on this team, a depleted team at that, and they've kind of sort of looked the same with or without him. Something you hadn't heard too many people talk about, but, you know, just a thought about that one. But LeBron, like, that's where we go. We go to talk about LeBron, and we go to talk about LeBron because he had one of those incredible sorts of triple-doubles. It was not the most efficient of triple-doubles, but, I mean, you go, what was it, 11 of 34 or something like that? He wasn't making a lot of shots, but damned if he didn't matter. Like, if he didn't matter. See, all right, hold up now. See, I was about to make a point that somebody said. So this dude named Ben jumps in my mentions on Twitter and says, predictions aren't your strong suit, Bomani. And he says, Hawks is a hashtag. Where were you when I said the Warriors are going to smoke the Rockets? How come y'all don't never remember none of those? You see, this is why we can't talk honestly with one another. This is why we can't talk honestly with one another. Because y'all always want to focus on the negative. You want somebody to make you feel good about the little things that you try to say, right? But when I try to get out here and hit you with that reel, all you want to do is try to pounce. That's all you want to do. That's why your girlfriend's ugly. Say something now. Anyway, back to the original point about the basketball. All the Cavs have right now really is LeBron. Like, they got a lot out of Mozgov, but they couldn't play Mozgov in the fourth quarter. Once the Warriors went small, Mozgov is out of there. It's basically LeBron and what in the world the Cavs can get off of LeBron. And look, they blew an 11-point lead with 3 minutes left in the course in that game. Like, let's not forget that. The way this game could have gone if Mo Spates could have just made a dunk on a breakaway. Think about that for a second. How this could have gone if Spates makes that on a breakaway. Because if Spates makes that dunk on that breakaway, we are killing LeBron right now. We are talking about how LeBron's triple-double was empty, how it had nothing behind it because he was 11 for 34. We're talking about that turnover that he had late in the fourth quarter. Like, that's where we would have gone because he missed the shot at the end of the game where, what's his name? Iguodala was guarding him on the perimeter. Iguodala, is kind of physical with him out there. He gets by Iguodala. He gets right in front of the restricted area. Draymond Green is right there in perfect position. It doesn't go down, right? Is that the – dang, there's so many of those. There's that one. There's the other one where he wound up around 3 people. The last shot was the one where he wound up around 3 people where he goes straight to the basket. I had people hitting me up talking about Jordan would have made that. So the last game, the dude took a jump shot. And the response was, well, you need to take it to the basket. He took it to the basket. Jordan would have made that. He's out there carrying the scrubbiest. Like, look at what Cleveland actually has right now on the floor in these games. Just not who they're supposed to have, who they actually have. Is it fair to say that we haven't seen a team with this little behind its star player in the NBA Finals since 2007 when LeBron was carrying dead weight around? And I said that was the worst team post-merger to make the NBA Finals. And I don't think that was wrong. Like, you wind up with, like, the 0-2 and the 0-3 Nets when you get in that discussion. Like, maybe you could talk about them. But that Cavaliers team, there was just nothing there. Like, their point guard rotation was Eric Snow and Jeff McInnes. Like, that's who they were rolling in and out. What they're doing right now is not terribly dissimilar. The only reason they have a chance in this is LeBron James. And part of why it's funny is I have been one of those people who's had to defend LeBron over the years to the point of people acting as though I was being an apologist. And maybe at points there was a certain level of apologism. I guess that's a word. I really don't have any idea, but we'll call it apologism. But the reason was y'all were tripping. Like, y'all just couldn't be disciplined about this and stick to the lecture at hand. It always had to turn into something else. But the one thing I never did was I never criticized for LeBron for not being the hero of your narrative, the hero of your storybook idea of how you're supposed to win a championship. I was never on board with that. Never was. Like, if you gave me an option of having LeBron or having Kobe, I'm taking LeBron every time, and don't tell me about Kobe and his willingness to take 40 shots. Like, I was always there on the LeBron program and still am. But, man, he looks a whole lot now like the character basically that people just wanted him to be. Everybody get out of my way and I'll just go take care of this. It worked this time. But the reason that this is working, they have no other option. There's nothing else that this can possibly be but this. That's all it is. Give the ball to LeBron, hope it works out. David Blatt, like I saw Steph said something in the press conference last night where he said something about the Cavs and a bread and butter play that they run. I'm like, what you mean by play? Look, I'm watching these games. Those ain't plays. And if they're plays, how come nobody's like putting their hand up to signal them? Like, apparently the Cavs got a dog whistle on the side. If the Cavs are running plays right now in the postseason, it's because David Blatt's got some whistle on the side that only people on the Cavs can hear. Because ain't nobody waving their hands, ain't nobody stomping their feet, ain't nobody calling nothing out. They getting the ball across half court and like, man, I hope LeBron's going to be open by the time I get there. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It's a tough go for him, man. It's a tough go. And it's 1-1. And to be perfectly honest, if you're a Cavs fan, that's about all you can ask for. Really, really, really. I just want to make sure you guys understand this. This is about all you can ask for. If the Cavs win this series, God bless them. It'll be one of the great upsets of all time. But I got all the Cavs fans hitting me up. What about now? I thought you said they were done. I thought you said they were finished. Everything else. Hey, man, they might put on a surge when they get back home, but I'm trying to help you guys out because you guys have a propensity for setting yourselves up for disappointment. And while a lot of you guys think I don't like Cleveland, I don't know you guys like that. I have no reason right now, I have in the past, but right now, I have no reason to wish anything ill upon you. Take this from me as an Atlanta sports fan. I grew up rooting for Atlanta teams, right? I need you to understand this. Do not set yourself up for disappointment. Enjoy this win that you got. Treat it like the last win you'll ever have, because God knows it might be. Like, not just now. It could be the last one you ever got forever. But, look, man, enjoy your win. It was a big win. It was an unexpected win. It is something that should give everybody involved some measure of pride. But don't get too cocky out here thinking that more is going to happen. We can't treat you like the underdogs unless you just get to this place where you just appreciate one win. The only way that you guys engender any positive feelings from America is by being a bunch of lovable losers. Keep being lovable, right? Keep doing that. And then if you stop being losers, we'll all come around and join you.
Bomani.
Hey, man, Steph Curry won MVP this year. Did you know that? Yes. He won MVP. Now, everybody loves Steph Curry. My man Dan Le Batard always talks about how adorable Steph Curry is. And I do think that he looks like he's about 15, 16 years old. Although, if you pay attention, he looked like he's trying to grow one of them Malcolm Goes to Mecca goatees. Have you peeped that? Anyway, yeah, he's the MVP, and he put in a stinker last game. A stinker last game. And given that he not only put in a stinker, he put up a horrible shot late. He threw the ball away on the last possession. And the clamps were put on him by a gentleman named Matthew Dellavedova. So why aren't you lighting the MVP on fire for this? Right? And look, I'm not even making one of these if it was LeBron, because we know how it would go if it was LeBron, but we hold LeBron to a different standard, and I understand why we hold LeBron to a different standard, because we think that LeBron is capable of a level of greatness that we don't think of Stephen Curry, that we don't even think of Kevin Durant, right? That honestly, we don't think of Anthony Davis. So with LeBron is always in competition with history. So I mean, even as unreasonable as I think that people are, I'm not saying that Stephen Curry should get the same treatment as LeBron James. But how about James Harden? Because we lit James Harden on fire when he had those 13 turnovers in that game against the Warriors. Hell, we lit James Harden on fire when he didn't come to play against the Heat in the 2012 finals, and that's when James Harden was all of 22 years old. All right? So where are we with the MVP right now? Where are we? And I think part of why people are more inclined to let Steph slide is, given the nature of his game just kind of as a shooter, we kind of feel like, well, some nights the shots just aren't going to fall. Some nights the shots aren't going to fall. You know, some of the nights when the shots aren't going to fall, when you take bad shots. And you can make the argument that, well, you know, they take these bad shots all year long. They just normally go in. Well, they ain't go in yesterday. They didn't go in yesterday, and there was a point at which it was clear that they were not going to go in. He was missing wide open shots also. Hey, man, that game went to overtime, and the MVP played poorly. And the MVP, by the way, is also your point guard, who probably should have figured out a way to get the ball to Klay Thompson more, because Klay Thompson was killing it. Take it one step further, beyond the MVP, there's the Coach of the Year over there also. What did the Coach of the Year do to help the MVP to get into better situations? Because I didn't see it. Like, did the Coach of the Year do anything to try to get the ball to Klay more? And even Klay's out there taking bad shots. Like, both of those cats are just free to take heat checks. And let me tell you something about the Warriors. Before I forget, we're going to get to your phone calls, too. But I realized something in watching the game yesterday with the Warriors. You know, I don't really like what they stand for. Like, what they represent, what they about. And I don't mean like them as people. I mean, they seem to have a bunch of really nice guys on the team. They look like they do a lot of charity work. You know what I mean? But they got a whole lot of dudes that it's like they're allergic to layups. They're allergic to dunks. Harrison Barnes seems to be the only guy on that team who enjoys shooting from close up. Nobody else seems to like that. There were a couple of plays where you saw Steph Curry go into the lane. Like, one of them was the finger roll that he hit late. And he gets into the lane, he goes up for this finger roll, which was way too soft to be doing in the lane in an NBA game. Like, anybody comes and does anything, and this thing probably ain't going to work out so well for you. But he gets all the way to the rim, and the whole way, all he's doing is looking for somebody to be open for three. No, man, just make the layup. That's all you've got to do. I see Thompson and Curry go into the lane so weakly, so often, because it's almost like getting a layup is like something went wrong. Like, oh, I guess we'll take these free 2 points if we have to. I don't like that at all. And look, as effective as they've been, and look, I picked them in this series. I picked them overwhelmingly. So, like, if I'm just speaking pragmatically, I don't have that much of a problem with the way that they play. But in terms of watching it, I'm like, man, y'all play like some suckers when you do something like that. Harrison Barnes is the only guy on that team that seems to, like, you know what, I want to dunk on somebody. Him and Bogey, because Bogey tried to dunk hard on Mozgov early. But nobody else, like, I don't know how I feel about a team full of guys, and nobody, like, gets a kick out of dunking on people.
Bomani.
All right, 888-729-3776. Talk to Justin in Ohio. Justin, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right, man.
All right, so I got a couple things. I've been listening to you for the past half an hour. And the one comment real quick that you just made, that it wasn't an exciting game, it hasn't been a good game. I don't know about you, man, but I almost had a heart attack these past two games. And on top of it, Cleveland should be up 2 games against this stupid Golden State team. They're nothing. Our defense
why they gotta
is going
be
to
stupid? Why they got to be stupid, man?
give us enough credit. I mean, yeah, we have the best player in the
world. But why they got to be stupid, bro? I just feel like you just being mean for no reason when you said they were stupid. Why they got to be stupid?
They're stupid like how the stuff you're saying is stupid. I almost think that you don't even know basketball, man.
You sound a little salty.
And you're saying our coach doesn't call plays? He must be doing something right to sweep Atlanta to beat Chicago with two of our All-Stars out. I mean, come on, man. Really?
Why are you so mad?
Dude, you're making my blood pressure boil, man.
I know. Why are you so mad? Why are you so mad?
You wouldn't last in Cleveland, dude.
Why not?
Your negativity, you have like the
Hold on,
worst
wait a minute. Hold on. If I wouldn't last in Cleveland because of negativity, how y'all survive it?
Yeah, that's all you can do is bash us. That's all you can do, man.
That's all I do. That's all I do. That's all I do. I mean, I'm trying to. I want to help you out. What can I do to make you not be so angry? I mean, I feel it in your soul. You say your blood pressure is so high. Go ahead and let it out, man. You need to scream. Go ahead and scream, man.
Yeah. Oh man.
I know you want to, man. You want to. Go ahead and let it. It's your time. Prom will scream. It'll be like that painting with the guy with the funny looking face and his hands on. Go ahead. Just let it out, dog.
Chance to beat this Golden State team. I mean, have you watched these past two games?
You okay? You good?
Yeah, no, answer me.
No, we ain't making no demands. Get him up out of here, too. 888-729-3776 is the telephone number. Man, my man is over there so heated. He said something I was going to, disagree with, and I can't even remember what it was because I found myself so entertained by the fact that he was so mad.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Bomani.
Serena Williams won the French Open this weekend. That is, 20 Grand Slam championships for Serena Williams? I believe it is fair now for us to say that Serena Williams is the greatest American female tennis player of all time. I don't think you'd really get too much disagreement on that at this point. And now it's going into something else. Like, for tennis, being 34 and doing what she's doing, 33 and doing what she's doing, that's Nolan Ryan type stuff, man. Chris Evert was retired by the time that she was 34 years old. Retired. Think about that for a second. Serena is still dominating in women's tennis when the comparable that we could name off the top of our heads was retired. I don't feel like, though, we appreciate the magnitude of Serena Williams as beyond simply as an athlete. I think she and her sister, if you want to be honest about this, how much better of an American sports story is there than this one? So we have this thing in sports where we love underdogs, right? Especially in this country, it's all about the underdog. But we have a very narrow conception, I would argue, of what an underdog actually is. And I think I've talked about this on the show before, but when Kentucky played Cornell in the NCAA tournament in 2010, that was the Kentucky team with John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, DeMarcus Cousins, the first Calipari team, right? So Cornell made it to the Sweet 16, and you had all these stories about Cornell, they're the underdogs, they're the underdogs, they're the underdogs. They weren't really underdogs. They just weren't very good at basketball. Were you going to tell me for a second that those kids that were playing for Cornell did not have access to all the facilities and everything else that was necessary to be good at basketball? No. They just weren't as good as the guys who played for Kentucky. Eric Bledsoe, who, as I understand it, spent a period of time of abject poverty, the details of which I don't want to go straight with because I don't want to get them wrong. But go look up Eric Bledsoe's story and tell me about how Eric Bledsoe isn't or wasn't an underdog. John Wall, I covered his recruitment in 2009, and one of the first times I talked to somebody about John, they said that if you were to go to his mama's house right now, you'd probably see his mama in the front yard hanging clothes up on the line. on the line. All right? I don't see how you make the argument that those dudes aren't underdogs. But anyway, in America, we say we love underdogs. What's more of an underdog story than a pair of sisters who learned to play tennis from their dad pushing a cart full of tennis balls in Compton? What are we talking about here? Like, what is more of a story from the movies than that? Because I don't really have much. We have spent the better part of the last 15 to 20 years talking about basically the death of American tennis. What has happened to American tennis? Where is the next great American tennis player? And for a while, the next great American tennis player had been the great American tennis player that we had at the time and did not properly appreciate. Now, Serena Williams is certainly a figure where if you do not like her, there are reasons. That is not a personality that is necessarily for everybody. I'll be the first to say that. At the same time, ordinarily, it's really, really, really hard to be a big enough jerk to be an American woman to achieve the sort of success that she has on a global scale. And we don't really do that much with it. We don't really talk that much about it. We don't really revel in it. Like, I don't think that we appreciate this in the ways that we typically appreciate similar stories in this country. And it's a little bit bothersome. A little bit bothersome. And here's why I say it's a little bit bothersome. I want you to think about this for a second. The Women's World Cup is going on right now. I don't care. I'm going to have to, muster it up and really act like I care in a few days because the farther they go, you understand what I'm saying here, right? But I don't care that much about soccer. I'll watch it, but I'm not really invested in it in that way. And it's because I'm not really invested in it. I don't care that much about soccer generally, so I can't just gin it up just because it becomes the thing to do. I can't do that. I can watch it for the sake of watching it, but I can't get so much charged up. But when it comes around, there are going to be people that hit me and question my level of patriotism because of my lack of interest in the Women's World Cup. That is going to happen. Where is your patriotism with Serena Williams carrying the banner of the United States dominating women's tennis? Really, where is it? Because it hasn't been there for either of the Williams sisters. We've had Williams sisters fighting off life-threatening illnesses. We've had comebacks from injuries that people didn't think that they would be able to come back for. I said about 3 or 4 years ago you had to start entertaining the possibility that Serena Williams was done because of age. And she just keeps on trucking. And we keep on acting like we don't care. And that's bizarre. Now, I want you to check something out. Some dude with no shirt on, put a shirt on. You look ridiculous, Christian. He says, you are confusing an underdog in life with an underdog in a sporting contest. You root a team that isn't as good to somehow win. That's not necessarily true. We have been treating Stephen Curry like he is an underdog when his dad played in the NBA. We like human interest stories. We like underdog in life stories. People treated Larry Bird like he was some sort of underdog when he was 6'9" and could shoot from the parking lot. We just don't give the Williams sisters the credit that we typically give America. And this is the story that we claim America is, right? That you can go from the bottom and not just wind up achieving something, but wind up achieving something with a level of class ascension that you don't have. Look, going from hitting tennis balls in Compton to going to Wimbledon, that is such a jump in every single way. That is so amazing. That is so remarkable. And we treat it like it's nothing. That's how we play this. And it's just a little bit bizarre to watch, bizarre to see. Because it is rare that somebody that successful, especially in a time in a sport where Americans have not been that successful recently, carrying the banner for the country, it is rare that we don't just find a way to enjoy it and appreciate it. But hopefully, sometime down the line, we'll be able to look back at the Williams sisters, Serena in particular, the way that people had to go back and look at Ted Williams and realize that a lot of the coverage belied the greatness that was before us. And the level of greatness that we have here is something that we should treat a whole lot better. Now, my man Chad says Serena was 6 when she came to Florida and trained at the finest academies in the world. My man, I understand exactly what you're saying, but the point of origin still matters a lot. And being those women in the places that they went with the treatment that they have endured is something that we as sports fans normally care a lot more about. And I hope at some point we do reach a level where we can truly appreciate the dominance that she is demonstrating on the court and what the hell it took to get there in the first place.
Bomani.
Last segment I was talking about Serena Williams and the idea that her story is a great underdog story, really, in the history of American sports. And we don't treat it as such, and we don't talk about it. And I got a little bit into the fickle notion of what an underdog is. And you want to know how adaptable we are to making people underdogs based upon what we want the right answers to be? Don't you remember when the MVP of the NBA vote was coming in and, Steph Curry won it, and all we talk about is what an underdog Steph Curry is. Steph Curry didn't get any major offers coming out of high school. Steph Curry was 5'9", 125 pounds or something at some age, Anyway, we went all in on the underdog story of Steph Curry, and I was a little reluctant on that just because, as I said many times, his dad did play in the NBA. His mother was a Division I athlete. He had a fighting chance from the beginning. Let me ask you something, though. When Matthew Dellavedova is guarding Steph Curry, was anybody looking at that as a matchup of two underdogs? Because I read plenty of stories about Dellavedova and the job he did guarding Stephen Curry. And let me tell you something. There only appeared to be one underdog in those tales. It was only one guy that was getting it done with his grit and his hard work and everything else. All of a sudden, Steph Curry turned into the establishment just by having somebody else guard him. Just that fast, he was the establishment. Now, is Dellavedova really an underdog? Ask yourself that question. Why is it that you say Matthew Dellavedova is an underdog? And the reason I ask that question is, and I don't think he's a very good NBA player. I mean, I saw some numbers on his defense and the guys that he's guarded that did legitimately surprise me, but I don't feel like I'm watching a very good NBA player when I watch Dellavedova play. I don't, right? That being said, the dude played 4 years of college ball and averaged double figures all 4 years. As the great Andy Glockner mentioned on Twitter yesterday, his offensive rating in college was a 117. All right? Hey, man, that's a decent college player. I think we'd all agree there. That's a decent college player. I don't know what his story was in Australia. I have no idea. I don't know what he comes from. I don't know what academies he did or did not go play in or anything else. I don't know anything about that. I do know, though, a dude who averaged 16 points a game in Division I basketball, I mean, that ain't so bad, right? Maybe he was gritting and scrapping his way all the way to it. I have no idea. But he became super underdog in this series, and Steph Curry, he went back to being an all-star. The whole thing was, man, did you see the way Dellavedova put the clamps on the MVP? MVP stopped being an underdog right then, didn't he? We're just a little bit malleable on who we decide we want to make the heartwarming tale. Because if Curry goes out the next game and puts 40 on Delly, nobody's going to be talking about what a great job the underdog did, now are they? This guy Nathan says, are you kidding? He's the underdog because he's guarding Steph Curry. Right. And he's never, ever been the underdog before. Gotcha.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Bomani.
All guests join us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, including our next guest. He joined us from ESPN.com, coming to us live from scenic Cleveland, Ohio. His name is Ethan Strauss. Ethan, what's going on?
You know, it is scenic out here. I'm just hanging out in my hotel room. I'm contemplating sending a text message to one Amin El-Hassan of ESPN that will spoil the Game of Thrones episode from last night, just because he's been getting on my nerves. It's the only way I can get back.
Do it. I can't imagine anything I would enjoy more than something that would bring him that minimal level of anguish. Do it, please. Now, you're a West Coast kid. Is this your first time in Cleveland?
Nah, I came out here when the Warriors came out to Cleveland, and it was 0 degrees, man. It was 0 degrees. I think it was a Tuesday night. It was a weekday. I went to the Dan Gilbert Casino. Never seen a casino quite like that in 0 degrees. It was an interesting experience.
Dude, general rule for life. Any place that has a casino but isn't a tourist destination is probably one of the most depressing places on earth. I went to a casino in Northwest Indiana one time. It wasn't like when people go to Vegas, they're going to party. When people go to the casino just in a town, they're going to get away, but they got to go right back home that night.
I mean, I had never really seen a casino where people were wearing beanies and thick jackets and not like fancy vacationing out in Lake Tahoe kinds of jackets. It looked a little, it looked a little hobo-ish, I gotta say. It looked like there should be a trash can on fire in the middle of the craps table.
We're talking to Ethan Strauss of ESPN.com. Dude, what happened to the Warriors, man? A lot of people like me expected them to dominate this series, and no such thing has happened.
It might be Del of a hobo, as Dan Lebitard calls it. Man, that is the question. Well, I see it as three things. They have three issues right now, and I might add to that. I'm not going to hold myself to that 3 count, but Number one is that Draymond Green has stopped shooting that three-point shot, and that really gums up their offense when he's not taking it. Looks like he might have lost a little confidence in it. I think there's a cascading effect from that. Number 2, Bogut is getting dominated by Mozgov. I thought Bogut was pretty good in the first quarter, but overall, he's had problems with that guy for a long time, and it just keeps continuing. So that's option number 2, and Probably first and foremost, I should have listed it first, what is going on with Steph Curry? It might have nothing to do with the fall that he took in Houston, but he hasn't been the same shooter since that point, and we don't know when it comes to shooters whether or not, hey, maybe it's the fall, maybe that's just how it goes for a few days, but when he's on, he covers up a lot of their flaws. I'm not sure this team is the stacked team that people think they are. They kind of need Steph Curry to make impossible shots in order to keep this thing moving.
Well, one thing I've noticed, and I don't think it's discussed that much because he often makes it so much, though, but he's taken a lot of bad shots in the course of the last couple of games. Like Dellavedova has had a helping hand from Stephen Curry in that 0 for 8 half-court number.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is the guy who hits bad shots. He's been taking flinchy shots, though, just weird, out-of-rhythm shots. It's okay if he's taking bad ones as long as he's dancing and as long as he's in rhythm. That game, and was it last night? Because I just had a 12-hour travel day. I think it was last night. It feels like it was a million years ago. It just seemed like he was taking him off rhythm, and I know that people are thinking that Dellavedova might have the answers for Curry. That's not true. That's flatly not true. I think he did a good job, especially off the ball. I think he's a better defensive player than Kyrie Irving is. But when Curry's on, he leads the league, and you can't do anything about that shots. And he just hasn't been hitting them lately. He's confident, though. I'm sure a lot of people will look at this and think that he might have lost confidence. He might be getting tight. It's the finals. If there's one thing I know about that dude from covering him for years and years and years, it's that he has a level of confidence that borders on delusion. I mean, think about this. When we see those pictures of him in high school, at that point, if you ask him, did you think you're going to become an NBA star? He thinks it. He thought it. He really does. And he turned out to be right, so we don't view that as crazy, but I'm sorry, considering how he looked and his body type, that's a level of delusion. So I don't think his confidence is the problem, even if there are other issues right now.
Look, he almost got Davis into the Final Four. I think that I could jump and land on outer space if I had done that myself. We're talking to Ethan Strauss of ESPN.com. Steve Kerr, what's he got? Like, I didn't feel like on either side in Game 2 that we saw very much happening from the coaches. This seemed to be pretty much a you guys go take care of it.
Yeah, but at the same time, you wouldn't say that Kerr made a mistake, whereas David Blatt on the other side, we would have been murdering him over the Mozgov thing, over not putting in Mozgov at the end of the game until J.R. Smith committed his 8th stupid foul and fouled out of that ball game. So I think Kerr is skating a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't say skating, maybe he deserves to not get criticized, just because there isn't a specific bad thing he did. It's just that his team looks a little bit scattered. They're getting thrown out of their actions on offense. I would like to see him go small a little bit. He tried that. Mozgov scored on Draymond Green in the post, but he had to travel to do it. So I think he should go small a little bit more, and that might be the adjustment going forward. But overall, when it comes to the two coaches last night, I'd say that Blatt's the one who made the mistake, and it's just so funny how results-oriented we are. You know, we have that game in Game 1. Curry gets his shot blocked by Kyrie Irving. If they lose that game, if LeBron, makes that shot on the other end, we're killing Steph on the other end of that. And then in Game 2, LeBron misses, I believe, 14 of his last 16 shots. He was 4 of 18 in the second half. But because Steph Curry cannot corral a pass from Andre Iguodala on the baseline, because that happened, now LeBron James is a hero and we're celebrating him that way. Really, we just have a situation where the teams have been pretty even, and Curry and James, frankly, in my opinion, haven't been that great.
All right, is Klay Thompson going to be the guy the Warriors have to ride? Because I don't think the Cavs have anybody that matches up with him.
That's a roller coaster, though. That's a roller coaster. If you ride Klay Thompson, I mean that is scary. You take the good with the bad when it comes to him. And last night he was really bailing them out. That's true, but he was bailing them out with a lot of shots that you wouldn't want him taking ordinarily. They just need Steph to come back. They can't rely on Klay Thompson. They can't rely on some other source. They need their MVP to be the MVP, and that sounds like some simple, stupid analysis, but it has the virtue of being true.
All right, talking to Ethan Strauss of ESPN.com. You said LeBron hasn't been that good, and shooting-wise, he has. And you look at the shooting numbers, and the percentage certainly isn't that good. But beyond that, what would worry you?
What would worry me about LeBron? From which perspective? From a Cleveland perspective or from a Warriors perspective?
Yeah, from a Cleveland. Like if you were the Cavs, you're like, of course you're happy with whatever you get from LeBron. But what is there that's lacking beyond the shooting?
I don't know if there's anything lacking beyond the shooting. I think that he has a tough game plan in front of him where the Warriors have decided not to help off those three-point shooters like Atlanta did. They saw the way Atlanta got burned, collapsing on those LeBron drives. So they're basically daring him to win it all by himself, and he's coming very, very close. So I wouldn't say that he's doing badly per se, given the options. I do think that the concern when it comes to LeBron James is just the wear and tear. The Warriors adopted the strategy in part because they think they have more depth than the Cavs do, and they think, given the isolation play and how brutal that strategy is, over the course of a series, he is going to wear down. He played 50 minutes last night after saying before that 42 was about his limit, and there aren't a bunch of days of rest in between Game 2 and Game 3. So that is the biggest concern, I think, from a Cleveland perspective, is just the fatigue factor.
All right, last question for Ethan Strauss of ESPN.com. Do you expect to see the Warriors do more pick and roll to try to put Steph in some better situations? Because he seemed to be getting the ball a lot on the sideline at the wing where Dellavedova had the additional defender in the boundary.
I don't think so. This is a little bit like with the Spurs when you'd see Jamal Crawford switched on to Kawhi Leonard or guarding Kawhi Leonard, and you'd go, hey, just kill him. Just go right for that. But that's just not how they play. They like to move the ball side to side. They like to run their offense. I know one thing. I know Steph, like most superstars, like LeBron James, evidently, now that he's running the team, would like to have the ball high screen, pick and roll. Stars like to have that level of control, but that's not quite the way Kerr likes to do things. You got to remember from Kerr's playing experience, he's somebody who believes in moving the ball, sharing the ball, because, hey, that's how one Steve Kerr as a player would get his shots. And I also happen to think that it is the smartest strategy, but that is the offense, and they're not going to deviate from it for the most part.
All right, Ethan Strauss, ESPN.com. Enjoy yourself in Cleveland, man. Go shoot some of those craps around the fire, baby.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get lucky out here.
All right, man. You take it easy.
You too.
Bomani.
So, we've been talking a lot about the NBA Finals here, but now let's move to something a little bit more entertaining. I mean, entertaining for me. I don't know if you saw, Brandon Spikes got cut today by the Patriots. Now, I don't derive any pleasure from that. Like, I don't find that man losing his job to be entertaining. But the circumstances under which he lost his job, I think we'd all admit, if you haven't heard him and once you find out, I think you'll come around to my side of seeing things and recognize that this is kind of funny. So, I'm here on ESPN.com, doing my part for the company, for the operation. And Mike Rice, he writes that just before 3:30 on Sunday morning, right, so Saturday night going into Sunday, the cops got a report that there was a 2011 Maybach in the median, and it had been abandoned. It also had front-end damage, all right? So there's a Maybach, it's got front-end damage, it's in the median. Coincidentally, right around the same time, a report came in on the same freeway of a 2009 Nissan Murano, and it had been rear-ended by a car that the people in the Murano did not see. All the people who got rear-ended in the Murano went to the hospital. So the Maybach was left abandoned in the middle of the road. The Patriots quickly released Brandon Spikes, and I understand why the Patriots quickly released Brandon Spikes. And you know why they quickly released Brandon Spikes? There wasn't even a need to conduct any sort of investigation. There wasn't a need to ask any sort of questions. And I'm not saying that they did that necessarily because he's not that good, although part of why they do it so quickly is that he's not so good. I'm saying from this comfortable distance that I'm at, right, from all the way over here, I feel like if you were up to something that made you think that leaving your Maybach in the middle of the road was your best play, then you got to go. Because you must have been up to something. What other conclusion can I possibly draw? You left your Maybach in the middle of the road? Somebody's staying with the Maybach. Even if it isn't me, somebody's staying with the Maybach. If I'm there by myself as I'm fleeing the Maybach, I'm calling somebody like, hey, dog, I need you to go sit in the front seat of my car for a second. There's no way that the Maybach is getting left in the middle of the road. It's just not happening. Let me tell you something, man. I'm here to help you guys out from time to time, and I'm not trying to encourage you to get any sort of illegal shenanigans, but I am going to tell you that if you're out here doing some dirt that you're not supposed to do, the car is always going to be your problem. Like, the car is a big old homing device. I have heard all kinds of stories of people ditching the car. You know the problem with ditching the car? At some point, you've got to go back and get it. And even if you don't go back and get it, somebody is going to get the car. And at some point in the car retrieval process, there will be questions. I have a friend of mine whose brother once turned his car over. Yeah, his car tipped over while he was driving somewhere. I can't remember if it was either in the middle of nowhere, California. It was in the middle of nowhere, California. Like in between L.A. and Vegas, like in between Barstow and Vegas, like somewhere out there, right? So he tipped his car over, and he had been drinking, right? So he left the car. And at some point, he had to come back and get the car. And when he came back to get the car, he said that he hadn't been the one who was driving the car, even though I am pretty sure that he had the keys to the car in his pocket. And the problem was, after the brilliant idea of ditching your car, you always have to go back and get it. Even if it's not a situation of ditching the car. For example, I was sitting at the house today, or maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember which, but I read a story, or I saw a story I come across that the New York Times had written about Savannah, Georgia, and about how scenic and how beautiful Savannah was and everything else. And I largely agree with that, except the problem is, when I think about Savannah, I always think about that time I got robbed in Savannah. So I got robbed in Savannah one time, right? You know, it's just one of those things. It's no big deal. I live to tell the tale. And while I was laying down on the ground, and that man was, as they say, running my pockets, there was one thing I knew, if nothing else. He wasn't going to take the car. Because if he took the car, somebody was coming to get the car. And the little money that they wanted to steal from me, there was no need to try to take the car because they were going to find the car. That's what it was going to be. Now, apparently Brandon Spike said that he hit a deer. By the way, as we all know, if you wind up hitting a deer, the deer at least is initially going to win. Initially going to win. But you don't have to, like, leave the car after you hit a deer. Only if you're, like, performing CPR, like if you're that guy that, like, is really out here trying to save an animal's life that you'll put your mouth on it, right? Otherwise, you ain't got to be out here, like, you know, if you put that deer in your arms and try to run him to safety, maybe you got a story. They might make a movie out of that. You might win some kind of award. You get a commendation from the mayor. You know, you might get one of those things. But the car, anyway, like that time I got robbed. You know, he took my money. We went on about our business. Because I knew he wasn't going to take my car. If you're going to do it, it just can't involve a car of yours, registered to you, any such thing. It just can't be any of those things. So I just imagine how flustered you have to be where it seems like a great idea. I'm going to ditch the car. Now, in Brandon Spike's case, there's only one reason that I could think of for him to ditch that car. I'm not going to tell you because I don't know the particulars of the law in situations like this. But I do know that there is only one thing that I could think about that would make ditching the car seem like a great idea. And I got to say, if it's that one thing, he was probably going to lose his job anyway. This way, he didn't wind up getting arrested. And he might wind up getting another job. So who knows? Maybe he just had to cut his losses, right? Like, I'm going to lose my job anyway. I might as well just ditch this car. I just remember this one time a friend of mine called me because his car had died. The car had died in Atlanta, somewhere on Northside Drive, like over there by Marietta Street. So he called me. I picked him up and went around, took him to do a couple things, you know, to try to do what he needed to do to get the car back right. And we come back to the car, and I don't know the politically correct term anymore, but there's like a bum in the car. And so we walk up to the car, and I'm like, dude, what you going to do? Because I wasn't going to fight for this car. Like, we weren't going to fight this bum. Not over this car. Not over this Ford Tempo. Like, it wasn't about to happen. So he just goes and he taps on the window like, excuse me, sir, you're in my car. And the bum didn't believe him because would you believe somebody that just tapped on the window? It was like, hey, you're in my car, right? But at the same time, if somebody's going to get up in the Ford Tempo to try to see what's going on at a time like that, what do you think they're going to do with the Maybach? A little front end damage. Try to drive that thing off the medium. Just joyride a little bit. Tell you this, a busted up Maybach is ride cleaner than whatever the hell you got.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones. Weeknights from 9 to 11 Eastern or on demand at ESPNradio.com.